knowing it would be enough of a signal for his servant to keep it from other hands in his absence. Alphonse nodded sharply, bowing low, while the horseboy stared in confusion at the dumb show between the two men. Vicomte Gascoigne strapped on his sword and allowed Alphonse to drape his yellow cloak around his shoulders. When his gaze dropped once more to the chair, the book had somehow vanished. Truly, his servant was the soul of discretion, and not simply because he lacked a tongue. Gascoigne inclined his head in thanks and swept out behind the boy, passing through the outer rooms and into the chilly corridor beyond. A party of 5 men awaited him there. 4 of them were evidently soldiers, wearing a royal tabard over mail. The last wore a cloak and tunic over hose, all as thick and well made as his own. "Vicomte Michel Gascoigne," the man said. Gascoigne noted the perfect pronunciation and smiled. "I have that honour. I am at your service. Richard Neville, Earl of Salisbury and Lord Chancellor. I must apologise for the late hour, but you are expected, my lord, in the royal chambers." Gascoigne fell easily into step at the man's side, ignoring the soldiers clattering along in their wake. He had known stranger things than a midnight meeting in his career. "To see the king?" he asked mischievously, watching the Earl closely. Salisbury was not a young man, though he seemed wiry and in good health to the Frenchman's eyes. It would not do to reveal how much the court of France knew of King Henry's poor health. "I'm sorry to report that His Royal Highness King Henry is suffering with an ague, a temporary illness. I hope you will take no offence, but I am to bring you to the Duke of York this evening." "My Lord Salisbury, I am so very sorry to hear such a thing," Gascoigne replied, letting the words spill out. He saw Salisbury's eyes tighten just a fraction and had to repress a smile. They both knew there were families in the English court with strong ties to France, whether by blood or titles. The idea that the French king would not know every detail of King Henry's collapse was a game to be played between them and nothing more. The English king had been near senseless for months, fallen so deeply into a stupor that he could not be raised to life. It was not for nothing that his lords had appointed one of their number as protector and defender of the realm. Richard, Duke of York, was king in all but name, and in truth Vicomte Gascoigne had no interest in meeting a royal lost in his dreaming. He had been sent to judge the strength of the English court and their willingness to defend their interests. Gascoigne allowed his pleasure to sparkle in his eyes for just an instant, before snuffing the emotion. If he reported that they were weak and lost without King Henry, Gascoigne's word alone would bring 100 ships from France to raid and burn every English port. The English had done the same to France for long enough, he reminded himself. Perhaps it was time at last that the devil had his due of them as well. Salisbury led the small group along an endless stretch of corridors, then climbed 2 flights of stairs to the royal apartments on the floors above. Even at such a late hour, the Palace of Westminster was ablaze with lamps set just a few paces apart. Yet Gascoigne could smell damp in the air, a reek of ancient mould from having the river so close. As they reached the final guarded door, he had to control the desire to straighten his cloak and collar one last time. Alphonse would not have let him leave with anything awry. The soldiers were dismissed and the door opened by guards within. Salisbury extended his hand to allow the ambassador to enter before him. "After you, Vicomte," he said. His eyes were sharp, Gascoigne realized, as he bowed and went in. The man missed nothing, and he reminded himself to be wary of him. The English were many things, venal, short-tempered, greedy, a whole host of sins. No one had ever called them stupid, however, not in all the history of the world. If God would only make it so, King Charles would have their towns and castles in his grip in just a single generation. Salisbury closed the door softly at his back, and Vicomte Gascoigne found himself in a smaller room than he had expected. Perhaps it was only right that a protector and defender would not allow himself the trappings of a royal court, yet the stillness of that room made a shudder pass down Gascoigne's back. The windows were black with the night outside, and the man who rose to greet him was dressed in the same colour, almost lost in the shadows of low burning lamps as he came forward. Richard, Duke of York, extended his hand, beckoning Gascoigne further into the room. The Frenchman felt his hackles stand up in superstitious fear, though he showed no sign of his discomfort. As he stepped forward, he glanced behind, seeing nothing stranger than Salisbury watching him steadily.